What about Phil Spencer taking the stage at E3 with his fingers tinted? He's just like, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to announce the Sega Uranus, the first console, and everyone's clapping so hard he has to repeat himself, the first console you can plug directly into your and then he's like, Tisha and Colin are going to come out and demonstrate. But, they have those, like, demonstrations with, like, those actors, those paid actors. And they just come out and they're all...
They've never played a video game in their life.
Yeah. They're like, oh, yeah, wow, whoa, look out, my butt cheeks, whoa. That'd be so funny.
So sick, dude. Oh, man. Hello, and welcome to another wonderful episode of Grass Touchers, the show where four of us guys talk about video games, how much we love them, how little time we have for them, but how we squeeze them into our life anyway. I am Jake.
I am Greg.
No, you're not. Oh, psych. Oh, what? I am Greg. That was Jared.
No.
And I'm Tyler.
Tyler! Hey, check it out. Ladies and gentlemen, the illustrious, the wonderful, the magnanimous Tyler has joined us. It's old buddy of Greg's from back in the day, and we decided to have him on. He's going to ham it up with us. We're going to talk a little bit of everything. He's got just as much expertise as we do when it comes to the former days of being a couch potato, the former days of, oh man, yeah, if I was born 10 years later, I'd have been a Twitch streamer. He's a real one, and he's also in his 30s like we are, and ready to rock and roll with the adult life. So I would like to figure out, what have we been playing lately? Jared, tell me, how's it going?
It's going at a snail's pace. I'm still playing Ark, and I mentioned briefly before we started recording, and I'm going to get into it now. I'm trying to get to level 100, which is a very attainable goal. I think the people that are already in the server that are kind of dominating things are well past that point. But I'm a solo player, and I want to get there, and it's a grind. It's tough out there. Just last night, things were going fine. I was winding down, and I get back to one of my bases, and what do I see? A couple of crusty, drawed bums blowing up one of my bases, stealing my stuff. And so I got into a whole fracas with them. Lost my favorite bird.
Did you take it to the house? Did you daddy up? Did you tell them what's what?
I didn't daddy up properly because I didn't have. Because you by yourself, you gotta focus on your priorities. And I've been making all this other stuff. I should have made a gun. I should have been more prepared. I didn't. I wasn't more prepared. I think I could have taken him if I had come at him with the right gear, but I flopped and I lost my best bird. I was really bummed about that. But aside from that, I played a little more of Marvel Midnight Suns. I'm not wowed by it yet, but it still has potential. It's pretty good.
Okay.
There's parts of it that are kind of annoying, but I'm sure I'll get really into that once I get really into it. And then I did play an old favorite of mine from the Genesis Super Nintendo era. I started playing Maximum Carnage, Spider-Man in Maximum Carnage, and which is a dope game. I love it. I'm a bigger fan of the sequel, Separation Anxiety, which was you could play co-op, which was huge when you have a brother and you're a kid and you're like, I want to play. No, I want to play. So I want to beat it. That's a new mission of mine. It's a remote mission because when I'm at home base, it's Ark time. Okay?
Right.
But other than that, chilling.
Those two games are old enough and foreign to me enough that you could have made them up just now, and I wouldn't have known.
I'm playing Dick
stuff.
Bungus's professional football on the Sega Saturnus. And my franchise mode is going crazy, dude.
No, you got to get on that Saturn Uranus, dude. That's Sega
Uranus.
What did I just say? Sega Uranus. That was the sequel.
The sequel to the hit Sega Saturn.
introducing Sega Uranus.
With the sunglasses, the kid skateboarding. I'd buy a Uranus.
Man.
I'd buy Uranus.
That's so good. Greg, where are we at? What you been doing this past week, video game wise?
Man, honestly, I've been touching a lot of grass the last week. Work's been pretty hectic.
Yeah.
But played some PUBG with Jake, which was cool. I tried multiple times to hop on to Baldur's Gate 3 and, play, and some things kept coming up with work and stuff like that. But I tell you what, and we're going to dive into it later, I am going to finish my Elden Ring playthrough, my 100% playthrough. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, because today, and again, I've been saying this on this podcast for months now, that FromSoft was going to shadow drop the trailer, and they did last night.
Whoa.
They go, oh, yeah, tomorrow morning we're going to drop a 3-minute gameplay trailer for the Elden Ring DLC. And they did this morning. And it's totally rad. It's super cool. Too expensive, which we'll also get to.
Yeah, we're going to have to go over the ins and outs of it. It wasn't just, hey, check out this thing that's coming out soon. There's some wrinkles to their rollout plan.
Yeah, well, it's also that they announced that it's 5 months from now it's coming out. It's coming out in June.
Right.
Or 4 months.
Yeah,
in
your theory
June.
of they'll announce it and then it will drop shortly after that seems to have been debunked, unfortunately.
Sure, yeah. But they did, keep to true FromSoft with the Shadow dropping the trailer, right? Like the night before, they're like, oh, tomorrow morning it's coming out. That's very much in keeping with them. So that's cool. I will certainly get back into finishing my 100% Elden Ring playthrough. Other than that, I'm hoping to get back into Baldur's Gate. I'd love to keep playing Hades as soon as my wife releases her Death Grip on the Steam Deck.
Right.
Which hopefully will happen. Dude, Mario, Dr. Mario. That's like we were watching. I'm rewatching the Michael Jordan documentary, The Last Dance. We're kind of rewatching it together. It's so good. Yeah. And I look over and it's and it's like Dr. Mario.
Is Dr. Mario your OBGYN at this point?
No, he is no.
Okay.
Man, good God Almighty! All right,
that'd be so funny, honey. We have an appointment with Dr. Mario tomorrow. Are you tracking? Or is that you got that on the calendar?
My God!
Don't rule it out.
So yeah, honestly, been touching a lot of grass. As we talk about on this podcast a lot, sometimes that's the way life be.
For real.
What about you, Tyler?
Well, based off of a lot of recommendations you guys have made, I have picked up quite a few. Dabbled in the entire Halo collection, which has been really fun.
Nice.
Little nostalgia there.
Very cool.
And this is all on PC or a couple of other handheld things I'll get into later. Not a console guy. Borderlands, picked that back up. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just to blow some steam.
Did you pick up number 3 like we did, or some other one? Okay, cool.
Yep. I actually had it and forgot about it. So it's
nice.
Nice. Yeah. And then a really fun one that it's kind of newer, Helldivers 2. Talked about it a little bit.
I keep seeing that. My algorithm is full of that game right now, and I'm convinced we'll have to all try it at some point.
It is, the comedy masterpiece that it was, Starship Troopers. It is that in a video game form. So, highly recommend it.
I think it's the friendly fire mechanic that keeps getting people. That's like, I can't believe they did this, calling in orbital strikes or whatever, and you're just accidentally kill your buddy, and there's all these videos of oops.
Can you sell me on that game in like elevator pitch almost style? Because I played the first one a long time ago, but I want to know why this one's selling so well.
I think graphically, obviously, it's way up there. High frame rates, high resolution, but it's just fun. If you just want to play something that doesn't require a lot of brain power, winding down, it's awesome. Only downside now.
It's relatively objective based, is
right.
it not? It's not just some TDM crap. It's got this whole extraction, kill bugs, get out, survive as a squad. It's PvE more than anything. If my understanding is correct.
Yeah. So far, at least what I've played. But downside, it is so popular right now. Servers get really bogged down.
Yeah.
So, I know for us on the East Coast, we're always in prime time because
Right.
for us grass touchers, when the kids are asleep,
Dude, for real.
Well,
the West Coast people
there's
are
a-
off work.
Yeah.
There's a marked difference when, like, me and Greg play PUBG or when we all play Siege or, there's these times where you go, why are we getting our butts handed to us on a plate right now? And you look at what time it is and you're like, oh, that's why. It's a tougher time zone to be in sometimes.
Yeah, but other than that, a couple of mobile games. I can get a little bit more into that later, but I know one that people love to hate on, but that's kept my interest for a while. Raid Shadow Legends. I don't know if you guys have.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's fun. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. The mobile game.
Cool.
What about you, Jake?
Oh, well, I've been touching some grass myself this past week. We just took on a big project at my church where we're renovating our sanctuary and we're building a new AV room. We cut this window in a wall, and so I've been in the attic, pulling Ethernet cables into PVC pipes and doing some very not gamer things. But it's cool because it's been something where I can take my other sort of IT skills and run XLR and Ethernet and HDMI and think through the connections we got to make, and I've enjoyed sort of being a part of that little project.
Yeah.
I took Monday off and played some disc golf, so that was some literal grass touching I got to do. Played pretty good at one of my favorite courses. And then, I was so close to a hole-in-one on this one. Oh, this one shot, there's this tee pad on this one hole that has a perfect look where you can sort of throw to the right and hook it in just like a classic backhand shot. Anyway, it was very close to a hole-in-one.
I got a hole-in-one for you, pal.
Yeah, I thought you might say something like that.
Introducing the new Sega Uranus. Sorry, we're back.
Not the sequel to the Saturn. Is it finally dropping? But with actual video games, I finally got some time that I sort of made up my mind after a busy couple of days. I was like, tonight I am either playing PUBG with Greg or I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3. And whichever one of those things I end up doing, I'm going to stay up a little bit late. I got some good sleep the night before. I'm gonna give myself a little window here, and wouldn't you know, the PUBG servers were down for maintenance. And so I was like, well, that makes up my mind for me. So me and Greg and Tyler, we were chatting a little bit the other night, yesterday that is. But I got to tie up some loose ends in my playthrough of Baldur's Gate, move on to a new quest, kind of bang my head against the wall at that quest for an hour, and then sort of save scum and back out and go do a different quest, and I'm stuck into that one, and it's so rad, dude. I still the frustrations with that I have with that game are slowly growing in number, because once you sit there for a couple hours straight, you find here's a good example, right? So one of the things I absolutely have to do at my relatively low level, if I find myself overcrowded with bad guys in a dungeon or whatever, or in my case, I crawled down a well and it's a big spider dungeon. There's spiders everywhere. There's these big spiders, and they have little clutches of eggs strewn about the map. And when if the big spider gets to the little clutch of eggs, it'll summon them out of there, and now you've got 5 more spiders to deal with. They're tiny, but they can do some damage and they'll poison you. It's a big deal. So I go, all right, let me go into my inventory and search for what kind of throwables I have. I bet I have, some kind of alchemical fire, acid, grenade, something. And the blast radius that it displays on the screen is one thing. But you will hit people outside of the little, as you're lining up your shot of where you want to take your turn and how you want to throw it, and you're planning the positioning and the tactics of it all. I had one of my party members on this bridge that was made out of spider web, and I threw this grenade at a group of spiders, and it totally obliterated them. Mission accomplished. But the blast radius actually was further in reality than the little circle, and it blew up the spider web bridge thing, and my character, who I was really depending on for my strategy, plummeted to their near death all the way to the bottom of this giant dungeon. And I was like, man, that's my girl. She was going to help me with healing, and I was going to be escape, load game, quick save. All right, let's just do all that again. But it's still fun because each of those encounters feels like a puzzle now, and it's less frustrating and more of a it might as well be a RTS. It's sort of slow turn based, trying to position your units and your party in such a way that you can find success. And then there's all the RNG, and that can be a little frustrating because like you could, crit one time and then critical miss another time and just do 0 damage. So I've been enjoying Baldur's Gate 3. Like Greg said, a little PUBG here and there. Steam Deck's been a little quiet. Haven't done a whole lot on the Steam Deck. Just that little bit of Armored Core that I talked about last week. So nothing crazy there. But hey, back to you, Tyler. So glad you're here. I want to hear all about like what is your. You can tell us as much about yourself as you care to,
Sure.
and just kind of like what's your typical video game intake? What are you into? How do you squeeze it in? Like what do you do to engage with video game entertainment generally?
Sure. So like Jake, also work in IT. The pulling Ethernet through PVC resonated with me. We finished building a house
I thought it would.
in July, and I was like, I'm over Wi-Fi and relying on all that, so ran Ethernet to pretty much anywhere that we could possibly need it.
Nice, dude.
So part of the nice thing about building a house is you get a little bit of wiggle room in the loan. So I got some nice security stuff for the outside, a nice little network rack, a little home server, a couple other little gadgets here and there. So one of the big things that I've really enjoyed, finally pulled out an old Raspberry Pi 4 that I had. And there's a couple of different full-blown OS or operating systems that you can install that run all these different old emulators for consoles. I think I'm going to throw out the disclaimer Greg did a while back. I do own all these games. I did purchase them all.
That's right.
But I've really been enjoying some of the like classic Super Nintendo games. I've just got a little portable monitor. I've got it plugged up to the Bluetooth Super Nintendo controller, Donkey Kong Country, the original #2.
Yeah.
My son, who is 4, he'll be 5 in July, loves the Mario movie, right? He's like, oh, I want to watch Mario and Luigi. Yeah. So, of course, when I pull out this old, like, kind of weird-looking Super Mario game, he's like, oh! And it's just, it's such a weird feeling when you see them, like, actually do something for the first time. So that's been a lot of fun.
Well, that's so cool that you're able to do that for him, especially to have that experience of like literally time traveling to what for him is ancient and for us is like yesterday sometimes,
how weird is it though that there's going to be a generation of kids that grow up, they're going to be like 15 years old and they're going to be like, you want to play Mario? And they're like, we're Mario, right? From the Mario movie, right?
Right.
No.
That's their main touch point.
They're like, no. It's from the movie.
Right.
They made a game based on him, but it's from the movie.
Yeah.
So that's been a lot of fun. Like I mentioned earlier, just kind of stick to PC. I've got all sorts of stuff installed. I've got Hogwarts Legacy. That one I find myself kind of dabbling in every now and then. Looks great.
I hear that game rocks. I just don't know like jack crap about Harry Potter. I feel like
you don't really need to.
Right.
It's just graphically, it's beautiful. Like you guys talked about the plateau, like the big sweeping landscapes and everything.
Yeah, good vista shot.
Yeah, vista. That's what I was looking for. It's gorgeous. Like when you get out like a little ways, you turn around and look at the castle. It's phenomenal, and it's just fun.
Cool.
Gameplay's easy. I've still got Red Dead 2 on the backlog. Cyberpunk. And the top of my list is Baldur's Gate 3 to buy when I finally get around to doing that. And Armored Core 6 is actually up there too now. The joystick, the nostalgia you guys mentioned on the last pod, that took me back. Like the OG, like Mech Warrior 2. I think, Jake, you were talking about that.
Yeah, I was, yeah.
But other than that, still a little bit into WoW, World of Warcraft, for those of you that don't know. I've been living under a rock for the past 25 years.
Now, what's that like to dip to sort of jump in, jump out of that? Do you feel drawn to like, oh man, if I'm going to get anything out of this latest expansion, I'm going to have to really put in the time that I don't have. So like, how do you manage that sort of like FOMO? Like, I know that there's more content here, but I only have time for this 5%.
So they have, especially over the last 2 or 3 expansions, they've really kind of made it easy for the more casual player, right? Okay. There's a lot of catch up mechanics. some people love them, some people hate them. For me, I think it's great. Or for somebody that likes to experiment with a lot of different characters, a lot of different classes and builds. You can blow through and just level up really quickly. You don't have to blast through the campaign or anything like that. Once upon a time, I played it way too much. We're talking late high school and pretty much all through college and into early adulthood after college. I think at one point I was in like the number 44 guild in the world as far as like rating and stuff like that goes. It was pretty hardcore.
Greg's got a smile on his face right now, ladies and gentlemen, where he's remembering. I can see the slideshow passing in front of his eyes now.
Do you still have the same account the whole time?
No, I have a new one at some point. The old one got banned for something or another. God, probably 6 years ago now, but same with the same character, the same class. Like I always come back to a warrior in there, like a tank. But yeah, that's fun. Dabbled a little bit in Diablo 4. Never played any of the other Diablo games. But that was it's fun to burn some time in. You guys always talk about the Steam Decks and like some different handhelds. I think Jake mentioned one that's not very well known, or at least I'd never heard of it. But I haven't heard you guys talk about mobile gaming at all. Like, the good old smartphone.
Yeah, the closest I think we've got to that was like, I think I talked about the New York Times mobile game that I play where there's, Wordle and connections and Sudoku and that kind of stuff. Because me and my wife and my sister-in-law, we all have like a group chat where we send each other our Wordle score or whatever. Always give each other crap about it. But that's about as much as we've I talked about Knights of the Old Republic on iPad or whatever. But yeah. And Jared, you've played a lot of mobile game stuff, and you're probably the one that mentioned some handheld. I've just probably mentioned the Steam Deck.
I do play a lot of handhelds, but the mobile game that I do play, I've been playing the same mobile game for like 6 years or something. That Marvel Contest of Champions one. It's good.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah, I keep seeing ads for some of the different Marvel stuff, and I'm just like, do I want to? Because, like I've been on the Raid Shadow Legends kick for a couple of years, like right when COVID started, and then I just like got busy and forgot about it for like a year and then picked it back up. But it's fun. It's just your classic, like, build up your group. You got to go do all this stuff. You've got different kind of areas that you focus on. It is just kind of a burn your energy and wait type thing.
Sure.
It's really easy to be tempted to spend money on, which I think that's the big problem with any mobile game, right? That's an unfortunate byproduct of it. But
yeah, it's like on the one hand, it's a sign of a good game that you think for half a second like this would be worth $5, and then your more logical brain comes in and goes, don't open that can of worms.
Right.
don't start microtransactions because you're not going to want to stop because you're going to want that buff, or you're going to want that bonus, or you're going to want that character, you're going to want that again. That's interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, I mean, a lot of grass touching.
Yeah. And you've got, is it 2 kids?
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. We talked about that.
They'll be 5 and 3 in July and August. Nice. So, getting ready to start the whole school thing. We're on 6 different lotteries for charter schools in the area.
Oh, wow.
So,
nice.
because the public schools here are not good at all.
What? North Carolina public schools are not great? What? This is brand new information to me.
This is the first time I'm hearing this. You kidding?
Yeah.
I feel you though. We got really lucky that it's all about sort of pockets, right? There's some schools that the administrator has stuck around long enough, or there's a fine arts program that's pretty good, or there it'll have like a highlight of some kind. We got lucky that our the elementary school that we're close to is actually pretty good. But nice. I feel you, and when it comes to grass touching, the whole kids thing obviously is a huge component of that, right? Like making time for your family and figuring out like, where does me time begin and end, and where does family, sort of priorities and everything. But I love that we have, I'm not the only person like, with kids on the pod right now. It's pretty cool. Greg's going to join the club before you know it though.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he will.
A few months away. Yeah. But the only time is after they're asleep. And after the wife has had a snack or something. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that there's been you talk about the Mario movie, that was sort of a gateway drug for my kids to like want to play Mario Kart with me on the Switch, or want to learn how to play Super Smash Brothers. And my son, Maxwell, our oldest, he's 7 now. Right?
So why is wild to me that he's that old? It's crazy.
My kid is 7. I had to think twice. Yes, he's 7. Yeah, yes, he's 7 years old, and I absolutely know my son's age. Our 7-year-old is really into the Switch, mostly the whole Minecraft thing. Kids his age that have the same propensities that he does, which is like, Legos and building stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, Minecraft is a huge part of that. But the other day, he goes, Daddy, you want to play Super Smash Brothers with me? And I was like, yeah, buddy, me and you on a team. Let's beat up those CPUs. And he's like, no, I want you to play against me. Oh, just you and me. And I was like, now,
Wreck.
Son, they got is meta.
Son, you're gonna learn today.
You about to get meta f***ed up. So.
I asked him. I said, now, do you want me to do that thing where I let you win a little bit? Because I'm happy to do that. But if you want me to play for real, I'll get Samus out and it'll be game over. Do you want that, or do you want like which dad do you want to interact with right now?
Right.
The gamer or the dad? And he said, you don't have to let me win. Let's just play. I'm like, okay, cool. And so
Okay.
so I got stretched out, and I was like, all right, give me that controller, son. But it's so fun to see, like you said, when your son expressed an interest in Mario, Tyler.
Yeah.
It's like this. There's this moment where they're kind of coming online, and they're realizing what's around them and what's available to them, and teaching them to interact with screen time like responsibly is one of the great joys of my life, because it becomes a tool for me. We're like, hey, I want to sit here on my Steam Deck on the couch for 30 minutes and just zone out for a minute. You get the Switch, and then we can talk the whole time, and we do. He's like, Dad, look what I built. Dad, look what I built. Dude, that's sick. My son's over here building like elevators and explosives and like fully functional gadgets in his little Minecraft house. I'm like,
building explosives. Dang, dude, you're gonna
he's like getting TNT. He's
Got
like
to start
blowing
them
stuff
early.
up.
Yeah, the Switch. Every time we go to like a Best Buy or Target or somewhere where there's one over there, Griffin's just like glued to it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, all right, well, like he's got the little, like the Amazon Fire tablet. And there's all sorts of games on there. Like I called him the other day. He was playing the original Sonic game. They have ported that onto the Fire tablet. Like
isn't that great?
Pixels and all. It's like, okay, that's awesome. But I feel a Switch is probably inevitable here in the next year or so.
Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't dare like recommend or say like you should get your kid a blank, because I think that's up to each situation, each parent or whatever. But it has definitely been something that something about the whole dual stick thing and just the size of it, like it fits kids really well. We talked about this in an early episode, I think, like the ergonomics problem.
Yeah.
The Steam Deck OLED, when I bought it and it got in the mail and I finally like put my hands on it, I had played Jared's for like a half a second when he visited one time, but I hadn't spent time. And then I was impressed by the ergonomics and contrasted that with the Switch, where I was like, man, my hands get cramped. Like the little Joy-Con feels so thin compared to the Steam Deck, and there's some drift in those controllers that once the joystick kind of starts fooling around on you, it's like, man, I'm not enjoying this very much. Whereas my kid is like, oh, that's weird. My character keeps going backwards. Whatever. And I'll just walk backwards. Right. He doesn't really care, and so that can be that can be a good time. I'll be excited to stay tuned for what adventures our kids get up to in video games in the future, man. Tyler, was there anything that you didn't get to that you want to get to? I feel like we had a nice little jaunt around a couple of topics, but
yeah. I mean, I didn't really deep dive on any of the home tech stuff. Don't know how into that you guys are, but I can definitely chat a little bit more about that.
I'll tell you one thing. If I had the luxury of building a home in the way that you did, I would have done the same thing that you did. I could talk about that stuff a lot.
Yeah.
I've settled for like out of the box solutions, and I can relate to it a little bit, but
is there anything that like you as like a tech specialist can't live without as far as like gaming goes? Like, is there anything that's like making your life easier that you've got that you think people are like missing out on?
So, not only for gaming, but also for work. Jake, I don't know how your IT workflow looks like, but for me, I mean, it's this file up here, remote session here, ticket system here, whatever. So I, splurged a little bit and went with the Samsung Odyssey 49-inch ultra-wide monitor.
The stupid wide, my man.
So it's basically like two 27-inch screens side by side.
Dang.
So like, imagine playing like Elden Ring on something like that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just
do you run games on it pretty well at
yeah.
a stretched resolution? I know different games have different levels of support for ultra wide, but
Yeah, it does a really good job of fitting and then just putting, very slight bars on either side if they're needed.
Cool, dude.
But pretty much everything.
I have one
now,
of those. I have one of those at work.
Yeah.
But I don't have one at my personal setup, and I like it a lot. I really want to play video games on it, especially like flight sim or space sim kind of games.
yeah.
Like I feel like it's just because it takes up so much of your peripheral vision if you get to the right distance away from it.
Well,
That's
too,
pretty sweet.
with newer games too, because they're built with these types of resolutions in mind. You actually get more visibility into your environment.
For sure.
Your character's
For sure.
going to be the same size on this screen or on a 27-inch screen.
Right,
But you get,
right. You
get
can
that
actually
much more
render
of your
more of it.
surroundings. Yeah.
Yeah. There's one game that I've played that, regardless of your screen aspect ratio, it limits you to a 16:9 actual display of the game, and that's Valorant. And I know that because I have a 21:9, so it's like slightly wide. And when I booted up Valorant one time, it was like bars on either side, and I think they populated it with something. It wasn't just black bars, but it kept the game to just a 16:9 aspect ratio, and just
that's
kind of centered it on the screen.
That's like, monitors are so funny because there's so many different schools of thought and so many different types of games that like Counter-Strike. There's like guys that play on like they play like 4x3
Yeah.
because it like allows them to react faster and weird stuff. And there's people who they like old CRT monitors to like play Smash Bros. Melee. There's people who like they want to play Elden Ring on like one of those chicken nugget toy like screens, like
Tamagotchi that they've loaded a game onto.
and they insist they're like, this is the only real way to play. Like they're like gatekeeping about it, so it's just kind of interesting. I wonder. I guess I'm just curious with the widescreen. So you think that pays off big time when you're playing? You really enjoy that, or does it something you?
I do. I haven't played a game yet that I haven't been like, oh man, this is much nicer than a smaller screen. Not just because of the size either.
Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, the only other thing like tech wise, like Jake, you mentioned out of the box solutions. With some different stuff, you probably have to mix and match, right? You're going to have a Ring doorbell or a Google Nest thermostat or whatever the case is.
Sure.
Another little Raspberry Pi that I got, I booted up something called Home Assistant on. And it's kind of like an all-in-one hub for all the things, right? All the smart things. So like right now I've got one, I'm going to eventually get a little touchscreen panel, make it like an in-wall calendar, like somewhere in the kitchen maybe. Yeah. But it's got like our family Google Calendar. It's got the front doorbell video feed. It's got the weather, the thermostat controls, then the temperatures and the humidities in the kids' room. All right there from the same panel. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different systems that it's all pulling from. So there's a lot of neat stuff. And the Raspberry Pis are like $100 to $130 depending on the model you get.
Right.
It really made me kind of crack back open one of them when you guys were talking about setting up the emulators on the Steam Deck and stuff and having to like, do some Linux type stuff. And that's what all this is. But this is such a popular piece of tech. There's guides galore.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So,
huge DIY community.
Yeah. So, yeah, really neat stuff there. Eventually I'll probably set one up to kind of irrigate our garden that we're going to have. All on a timer with a solenoid pump. So
I can imagine that would be a lot better than finagling with like. So we do Apple devices for all of our mobile devices because that's just we're kind of locked in and we've just like thrown up our hands and like surrendered. I know. I wish if I could go back, right? But when I got on the smartphone train, that was the best game in town, and it wasn't even close. You know what I mean? Like some of those very first Samsung phones were just like not good compared to the iPhone that had already gone to like the 4th or 5th gen, devices. But anyway, the fact I'm locked into that sucks. And so when I look to kind of integrate all of our smart stuff into one place, I'm kind of stuck with like Apple HomeKit, maybe, right? Yep. But then we like having Alexa in certain rooms, and so we have those. And and they're really glorified kitchen timers and to-do lists, right? But they're so handy. I can go to the store, and then my wife will add stuff to the list, and I can check it off on my phone at the store, and then so there's certain things that, because you have to go to a couple different places to get the thing that you really like, and some of that is subjective, but once you've settled on those products, you don't want to leave their respective, ecosystems, and you want to integrate them at some point so that you can simplify actually using them. Because if there's anything I've learned about getting into IT is that every friend that you meet that works in IT has a different idea of like what's good and what's not good, what to put in your home, what not to put in your home. Just the other day at work, they were giving us out these Aura rings, like smart rings that track your BPM and respiration rate and your sleep patterns. And I've just had it for like 24 hours now, but I kind of like it. But I'm like, but I have a Apple Watch, and now I look like an absolute tool bag because I've got a smart ring, which is free, whatever. But and a watch, and I've got a phone, and I've got an iPad, and I've got a laptop, and I've got a desktop, and I just. The more cool stuff you find and try to adopt, the less in love you are with any one of those things. And if you don't unify them, you're going to end up just, kind of letting them, other than regular software updates that they do automatically, you're not going to get like new functionality out of them probably unless you take some time. So good on you for doing like a custom solution like that. I think that's pretty ideal.
Just so you know, it does fully integrate with Amazon Alexa and Apple HomeKit.
Nice.
So
nice.
Pretty neat there.
Not to shift things too much, but I have una pregunta for Mr. Gregory. I just thought of something that I want to hear. So you've played enough Baldur's Gate now, Mister. Which one's the better game, do you think? Do you think being totally freaking objective, Elden Ring or Baldur's Gate, dude? How are we feeling about that? I know this is really putting you to the test right now.
Man, that is a topic shift.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Feelings aside, I just thought about that, and I want to know.
It's okay. Well, they're completely different games. Baldur's Gate is it's a Dungeons and Dragons. Roll the dice. Turn-based game. Right, so those are the big differences, and then the narrative in Baldur's Gate is way more structured, right? Like you are given options of, hey, this happened. Here are 3 different ways you can react to this, right? And then there are, in Baldur's Gate, you can, outside of those options, you can just kill people, or you can, do a persuasion check on them, or you can light some grease on fire underneath them and burn them all alive, or or you can try all those things and save scum and waste 3 hours of your life and decide to not even go down that rabbit hole in the first place. Boy,
I've done that.
Which has happened to me and Jake many times. Elden Ring, on the other hand, is I hate to say hack and slash because it's not that really, right?
It's not just that.
It's very Elden Ring is a very strategic hack and slash game, right? Like you, as Jake will find out now that I have, and it's public knowledge now. I sent Jake money because I so badly want him to buy Elden Ring that the only way I knew he would do it is if I literally Venmo peer pressured him into buying the
I'm
game.
being bribed into giving my review of Elden Ring.
But, Elden Ring, for example, like your equipment load based off how much armor you're wearing, you either have like light, medium, or heavy equipment load. Well, if you have heavy equipment load, you do what's called fat rolling. Like when you try and roll to dodge away from enemies, you literally look like a big slug rolling away, and like you don't want to ever be at heavy equipment loads because if you're at heavy equipment load, you cannot dodge anything in the game, right?
Right.
So yeah, you can try and wield the biggest sword in the game, and so that it's strategic in that way. So
are there like tank builds though that accommodate for that being viable?
Yes, but you have to build up your vigor and your vigor. So there's, much like Baldur's Gate, there's stat management, right? So every time you level up, you get to put points into stats, right? And Elden Ring, vigor is like your health stat. So the more you put into vigor, your literal health bar.
Right.
And you can go in the menu and see how much HP you have, right? But generally, like, it's displayed as like a red health meter, you know, in your HUD. So that increases your health, which is like a lot of people recommend for a first-time player, just pump points into the vigor stat so your health bar goes up so that, like, you can take more hits and not feel as punished by the game. But then you have endurance, which increases your equip load. So those beefy tank builds, they're going to pump points into vigor and endurance so they can have high health pools, and so they can wear heavier armor without fat rolling.
Okay.
Cool.
Gotcha.
Right? And
So I got to say, everything that you've just said, aside from the active sort of very much not turn-based, like dodging and sort of minute-to-minute gameplay, you could say a lot of that about Baldur's Gate as well, right? There's light and medium and heavy armor. You have to specialize in those armors. They affect your ability to cast spells. There's proficiencies in weapons, and that affects your ability to combat enemies. Like, so some of that, you know, there's some similarities.
There are. And
the RPG part of it.
And the biggest difference, you know, is the active gameplay aspect of it, right? Like Elden Ring, you're actively, you hit the right trigger, you're swinging your sword, right? Or whatever. You're loading your bow and arrow, whatever. You're actively controlling those things instead of it being turn-based. To answer Jared's question, it's tough. Dude, Jared's question of which one is better, was that your original question, right?
Yes.
I can't pick, man. They are two in my opinion, they are two of the greatest games ever made. And if, you know, gun to my head, whatever, I would probably say Elden Ring, but I've spent more time with it. I've got 127 hours in Elden Ring, and I've got
and that's a function of
12
your
in
life
Gate,
and when the game came out, and you know that's not purely a reflection of one game versus another. That's also a function of like I said, when the game came out and what kind of time you've had for it. If they came out at the same time, and you bought them both, and you kind of played like 2 hours of one, 2 hours of the other, 3 hours of one, 3 hours of the other. If you did both at the exact same time, I think you'd be able to gravitate according to, you know, what is an enduring quality of that game that every time you come back to it, it gives you such and such gratification. And then I think maybe then you'd have a more fair assessment of it. But yeah, I feel you. I feel you.
Yeah, I will to make all things equal. But before I quickly talk about the Elden Ring DLC trailer dropping.
Yeah,
today,
we do have to hit that.
We are going to hit that. I will, you know, kind of wrap up Jared's question by saying I think that something about each game that I think can be frustrating to make it fair, right? And Jake and I talked about this. One of the frustrating things about Baldur's Gate is that there is so much. And you want to go down all these rabbit holes. And sometimes in Baldur's Gate, you go down, you know, you follow some quest and you spend an hour and a half, 2 hours playing only to realize the thing is over-leveled for you and you just can't really, with your current stats and whatever, no matter how many times you strategically try to figure it out, you're not going to be able to, right? So you have to load a save from earlier. That can be, I had one of those moments last weekend where on Baldur's Gate, I spent several hours doing this thing, like Jake was talking about before the pod, and I loaded back, and I was like, man, that was super fun and super gratifying. I enjoyed every second of it, but like, I just kind of want to shut the game off right now, right? I had that moment, right? By the same token, Elden Ring, there is so little direction in the game because there's very little narrative, right? Where you could accidentally wind up in an area that you don't immediately realize is over-leveled for you. And Tyler's played Elden Ring and been in that situation. And you can, because you're strategic, you can kind of get through it. You can, Elden Ring is very good at that.
Did not do that.
You can, like, Elden Ring, very early on, they give you this, like, this horse that you can ride on. And it's very fast. And so you can, like, avoid enemies. You can go in a super high-leveled zone and just ride past enemies. And you're like, oh, I figured this thing out. I'm better at this game than I realized, you know? And you can maybe defeat a few enemies, right? And then you fight this boss, and you're like, man, I just should not be here, and I just wasted the last hour of my life. So both of those games kind of have that aspect to them. that that exists. But I love both of them. They're both incredible. And everyone should buy both of those games and play them till your eyes bleed.
So you're saying Mass Effect is the best game?
So Mass Effect is the best game ever.
That's what I thought.
Actually,
I think that's what I'm going to have to do, because you still haven't played those. I might have to, after I dip my toes into Elden Ring, I might have to return the favor and get you a Mass Effect or something.
Yes.
Get you the legendary trilogy or whatever.
Have you not played those games?
I've played, the only Mass Effect game I've ever played is Mass Effect Andromeda, which apparently is not good.
Oh my gosh, dude.
So,
That's a massive hole in your catalog, mister.
on the Elden Ring topic. So, boys, today,
All right.
this
Here we go.
morning
Strap in.
the Elden Ring DLC Shadow of the Erdtree trailer dropped. It was a 3-minute trailer that dropped. This weekend, this Sunday, is the 2-year anniversary of the release of Elden Ring. Multiple Game of the Year awards, all those things. They had they called it a major DLC about 6 months after the game came out. Really, it was not major. They just kind of polished some things that were released originally with the game.
Right.
And refined them. But first major DLC for the game to come out. And the trailer looks awesome. Basically what they've done is there were some Easter eggs in the original game, some locations you could visit, and some characters that were hinted at in the original game. And they're exploring those characters fully and realizing that. And it's very, very cool. And you can
very cool.
And yeah,
very
it
cool.
is very cool. And you can you can go online and you can read all the Elden Ring lore. And
This was Greg the whole time. Every time there was a new character, he was like,
Oh my god!
yeah, exactly. But I will say one thing that's kind of gratifying for the whole Elden Ring, all the people that play the game and are super into it, is a lot of the fan theories about what the DLC was going to be about were exactly right, because the very first thing they show on the trailer is like what everyone was theorizing about. Like, this is like the main unopened thread. This is like the thing from the original game they never fully explored, and so they're going to finally do that, which is really cool. And I won't get into that at all because you have to play the game.
right.
But I'll cut to the chase, guys. It's too expensive. So
How much did you say it was?
So it's $40 just for the DLC, and so I have two issues with this. One, I'm gonna buy it. Doesn't matter. I don't care. But
Yeah, full disclosure. Let's get it out there.
I'm gonna buy it. But two things. One, they announced it 2 years after the game comes out, and then even the announcement says it's not coming out until June, which is 4 months from now.
Yeah.
That's a long time even from now, and so that's a problem. $40 is a lot of money. $40 is $20 short of the entire full game, which
is still $60.
Still $60.
Yeah, and it's been out for how long now?
For 2 years as of this coming Sunday. And
That's
so,
wild to
I
me.
think
That
they
game
are
would still
Nintendo.
be. That's some. I was just gonna say that's some
Yeah.
Nintendo crap right there, keeping it at 60
Yeah.
that long.
And I'm sure that it will sell very well. And FromSoft is a fabulous company. I mean, every game FromSoft puts out virtually is Game of the Year quality or up there. Armored Core 6, Elden Ring, Bloodborne, all the things. Dark Souls. It's great. Hidetaka Miyazaki, he's the director of all the FromSoft stuff and kind of the lore master. And what Elden Ring has going for it, I think what made it catch on so well was that, one, it was the first open world Souls game, right? Mm-hmm. But two, George R.R. Martin of Game of Thrones theme wrote the lore for the game. He helped write the lore for the game. So those are kind of the hooks of why people were so into it. And
Is that true of other Dark Souls content or just Elden Ring?
No, just Elden Ring.
Okay.
They tapped him to kind of help write what they called it was world building. That was his title, was that he was like doing the world building for the game. So he came up kind of with the backstory and a lot of the characters, and it does, if you start reading it, you're like, oh, this is like Game of Thrones but like super creepy and dark. That's kind of like what
I heard this. I heard that they got George L.L. Cool J to do the soundtrack. Is that true?
Yeah, that's actually
Cool.
All that said, like I'm super hyped. FromSoft can be a little frustrating because the quality that I know that when it comes out, it's going to be great. Right? It's going to be good. It's going to be incredible. Like, it's going to get rave reviews, all that stuff.
I have no reason to think otherwise. It's just the delivery and the kind of ego trip that they're on, where like they know that they made Elden Ring. You know what I'm saying? Like, they know that they've got a bazillion people by the balls. They know that people are going to buy it. They know that they made a great game, and they've made lots of other good games, and they have a monopoly on that thing. You know, the Soulsborne games have reached the same status as like Metroidvania games. Like, we talk about them as a genre now because of the success of FromSoft, and that's great. Good on you. I'm down. If for no other reason than because Armored Core 6 is hella fun. But I can't help but like, my purple hair comes out a little bit when a corporation gets like too big for their britches and starts jerking around their customers. I really don't like that. And so some part of me is like, that's kind of lame, you know, the delivery, the way that it's going to be $40 and the game is still $60. And, you know, take as long as you want to put it out. I don't really care as long as it's not delayed 14,000 times, Starfield. But I just want to see it be good, Starfield. So if it's good, then great. But in the short term, you know, that sort of cycle of like, we're going to drop a trailer, we're going to wait till June, and it's still going to be this price is like,
and you know they're going to release it. They're going to give you an offer you can't refuse in like 2.5 years, where it's like $30 Steam sale, you know, Elden Ring Game of the Year, Ultra Platinum.
Right.
You know,
right.
So it's like
just the same way that Skyrim is, you know, on sale for $5 and is playable on a TI 84 graphic card. You know, like you can play certain games for hella cheap if you're patient enough, but you know, what's your threshold? You know, are you willing to wait? Do you want to? Do you need to buy it so that you can talk about it on your podcast? You know.
Yeah, I do want to hear Greg's thoughts. I know you're going to buy it day one. I don't discourage you.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. As we've said before, I live vicariously, and maybe we all do at different times, right? Like, through Jared's enjoyment of Street Fighter, I get to vicariously be like, great, I'm glad that's going well. I'm glad that game is like not bad. And until I get my hands on Elden Ring myself, that'll be how I feel about that. But well, boys, that takes us to our final segment, which is the mailbag. We just got a letter, and it's from Caden Yo Mama.
Jared, we need this. We need the mail sound. Jared, give us the mail sound.
Here's the mail. It never fails. It makes me wanna wag my tail because I wanna
So user Caden Yo Mama has responded to a Q&A that we put up. We asked, I believe it was our last episode, I said, hey, what other, you know, franchises and video game content have you really disagreed with reviewers on, where it drops and people are raving and then you bounce off of it and you're like, man, nuh-uh. And he says, I have never understood hype with sports games. Just like Call of Duty, all those games have been recycled and reused to the point that it's just a reskin. Love the podcast. Would love to hear your thoughts. And let me tell you, as soon as I read this, I was like, yeah, dude, I feel similarly. Me and sports games go way back. And by that, I mean way back. I used to play them because I thought NCAA football was so sick, dude. There's something about college football in video games that I like way better than NFL. The company that I kept at that time, like going to my cousin's house, you know, and he's a big Texas A&M fan. He ended up going there later in life, and I would pull up the Texas A&M Aggies, and they would beat, you know, USC or whatever, and you can pit these schools against each other in a way that was like, you know, channeling all the school pride, channeling the marching band, channeling the mascot. And with later iterations, there was more interaction with the culture of the school. Like, it would permeate, you know, the gameplay. And that was so interesting. Whereas, you know, the Panthers, the Falcons, the Patriots, the fill in the blank.
Wait, you can't say the Panthers and the NFL in the same sentence.
Yeah, aren't the Panthers a Pop Warner team?
Aren't the Panthers like a high school football team?
Never heard of him.
Tyler's slipping his paper bag over his head right now.
Yeah, I took down the big Panthers sign before we started.
Yeah, let me recant. I'm sorry. I said the P word when talking about football. But fill in your favorite NFL team. Every NFL's fan base is unique to a degree, but it really only hinges on like whether they're one of the old teams or one of the new teams, right? Like the Steelers or the Green Bay Packers, they have a certain fan base because of their relative age in like professional football. If you look at the Chargers or the Dolphins, they go a little ways back, but not as far as the Steelers, right? Like there's a different, I don't know, there's a mismatch from team to team. Whereas in the college scene, anyway, I just enjoy the NCAA games. Having said that, the last one I played would have been in like
they stopped making them.
Dude. They stopped making them. It's like they stopped making them because at a certain point, you have lots of ethics questions to ask yourself about the NCAA. That's a story for another day, right? But
Yep.
there's a real just transparent, all right, same game, maybe some weird noob mode that nobody cares about except for like 5 dudes.
It's blatant, for sure.
Absolutely blatant. FIFA got that way for a long time. I think that license just changed hands and it's no longer called FIFA. It's called something else. But yeah, I think sports games have been something that I kind of shoved off, a long time ago. You guys got any thoughts on that kind of thing? Other franchises that are just blatant reskins?
Tyler, do it. Let it rip.
I was gonna say, yeah, I can't echo the sports thing enough. Like Greg can attest to this. I had every Madden, every NCAA football game from like late '90s, if they made it all the way through like pretty much college.
Well, I mean, Blitz 2000 is the only sports game that you need. First of all,
There you go.
That one is fantastic. That was the anomaly, right? In sports games. But yeah, I mean, this is going to make me sound like a real grass toucher, but even like the PGA golf games, right? Like it's the same stuff. Like you can only make the blade of grass look that much different year over year.
Right.
Like, you got some rookie that's coming up, but I mean, it's the same thing with any of the games, right? It's just different names. Like the stadiums don't really change. When was the last time they added an NFL expansion team? It's not like there's really anything new.
Sure.
But people buy them. That's why they keep doing it.
Exactly.
I was gonna be harsh and say, I feel like all the Zelda games kind of look alike, just reskinned over and over again. I'm just messing.
I know that open up that can of worms again.
Yeah, no. I wholeheartedly agree with your guys' take on the FPS style games, the battleground type games. I mean, I guess just from kind of looping back around to like the mobile standpoint, all the little like base build out games where you get the terrible mini game ads, and you're like, oh, that looks like a fun time killer, and then that's like 2% of the actual game. I'm just like, damn it, they got me again.
Mobile game ads. The mobile game ad game is like. So I'll be at work, dude, and I'll be like, I like to have like lectures and talks and podcasts on in the background while I'm like doing my work. Yeah. And on my computer there, I've got some video pulled up, and then there'll be an ad because I still haven't sprung for YouTube Premium. I know I suck. And there'll be some ad for some stupid mobile game, and the ads for them get weird, man. There's one where like these dudes are just walking in blind to this lady who's like up on a throne somewhere, and she's got like some kind of serpent coming out of her dress, and it's like devouring these dudes and throwing them into lava. I'm like, what game is... I'm at work, you guys. Can we not with this right now? What's going on?
Yeah, those ads are getting weirder and weirder for sure, dude.
Yeah.
Just to speak to the sports thing real quick, as a longtime sports enjoyer, and somebody who my brother and my father and my older cousin, who was always around, they were always more into sports than I was at the time, and I'm very into sports, and I've always played sports my whole life. So I played and been around all of the sports games over the years, except for FIFA. They didn't like soccer.
Mm-hmm.
But it's such an interesting market because there's certain ones that now are beloved to the point where people continue to play them. Like NFL 2K for the Xbox, people still think is the best football game.
Right.
You can't, to get a copy of NCAA, I think it's 14, the last one they made, it's like $100 on eBay.
Oh my gosh, that's wild.
Yeah. But what was it? Kenny Your Mama or whatever? Kenny Your Mama?
Caden Your Mama.
Caden Your
Caden
Mama.
Your Mom.
To answer your question, you're totally right. And I don't know how long you've been in the game. But if you want to play a real sports game, you can follow Greg's advice. Go pick up a copy. I'm doing air quotes. Pick up a copy of Blitz at your local game store. Vim's Lair. And play that because NBA 2K, we were an automatic buy every year for NBA 2K. Boom, it's coming out, we're getting it. New year, new features, new game, and it's gotten to be such a shameless cash grab every year. It's the worst. It's the worst thing in gaming. Mm-hmm. Some of the worst qualities that are out there in other forms of media and in the world and predatory tactics are present front and center here, and they bully people into buying them because they're the only type of game that if you don't get it, you feel you are left behind because they shut down servers and they change rosters and they go, well, this is the new one. You got to get the new one if you want to have. And it's terrible because they could do a games as a service version if they wanted to, but they know that people will continue to buy FIFA and 2K.
You could make the one and then update it every year and say, hey, here's the cutover. Like it's going to go from this to this on this date, and you can hype that up, and you could charge $10 a season instead of. But that would be reasonable, and it wouldn't make them as much money. Why on earth would they do that?
And then you take your copy of last year's FIFA to GameStop, and they give you 3 nickels, and then they poke you in the eyes and give you a wedgie for even daring to think you could get anything for the thing you paid $65 for last year.
I'll give my 2 cents to the sports game topic. As the athletic person among the 4 of us,
I mean, that's not funny. That's totally accurate.
Yeah. I will just say this: sports games never really been my thing. But my fondest memories of any sports game ever were with Tyler and my brother and his brother playing NFL Blitz 2000. And those of you out there who have not played NFL Blitz 2000, the physics engine in this game is remarkable. Yeah, right? It is
truly
next
level.
You can do just, like Dragon Ball Z level stuff in this game.
You really can.
And one of the most fun things is that after every play is called dead, you can just tackle each other and dogpile on people, and it is a free for all, dude. You can just do whatever you want. But you can also get different costumes, and we used to. I know Tyler remembers this. My brother would always pick. He would always pick the hot dog costume. So he would always be like a giant hot dog, like with the bun and everything, right? And he would always they'd call the play dead, and my brother would just dive in the hot dog costume towards the dog pile. And dude, the 4 of us used to spend hours just because you could do the instant replay thing, and you could go back and you'd reverse it. And we would zoom in on my brother's hot dog face and slow motion, see this hot dog traveling towards this dog pile of LaDainian Tomlinson, just pooh, and just watch these pro players just get dog piled by this hot dog, dude. It was just that is my sports game that. It doesn't get better than that, dude. And it's all we talked about this in the pod. It's all about the hang, right? It doesn't matter what game we're playing. For sure. If you're not playing with people you care about and that you have a fun time talking to, it doesn't matter,
Yep.
And so
true story.
I imagine that the people that are super into sports games, and there are a lot of people out there that, and we're not trying to alienate any of our listeners or whatever, but like, I imagine that for most of those people, the joy that comes from sports games comes from the hang, not the game.
Yeah.
Very good, dude.
Yeah, definitely
Very
agree.
well said. Real quick, though, I know we're kind of running out of time here. Did you guys ever play the other Midway sports? Did you guys play Hits or
I remember NHL Hits. Wasn't that it?
NHL Hits?
NBA Jams.
I think I rented it at Blockbuster
Hangtime.
one time, and I was
Or
like,
Showtime.
this is pretty good.
What was the NBA one? Was it NBA Jam?
There was NBA Showtime, and they released it for the N64 PlayStation era. That game rocked. The graphics have not aged well, but that game was amazing.
I'm
And
seeing something called NBA Hang Time.
Hang
Is
Time
that-
was before that.
Is
That
that
was
in
like
the same universe?
that was Super Nintendo Genesis era. Hang Time
okay.
was sick though too. It was the predecessor.
Okay.
Dude, NHL Hits for the GameCube rocks my dude. That game is amazing. Play it, dude. If you haven't played it, play it. It's so awesome. It's got Limp
It's been a
Bizkit.
minute, but what?
Keep rolling. Come on, dude. That game is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, bro. You got to get that one. Go to your local game store. Vimsler.
I don't know. I was thinking more like backyard football.
Dude, come on. You know you're not allowed to play that game. You're too busy playing Pooh Finder 69 or whatever that game is.
Oh,
man.
man.
Pervert.
Always outing me like 3 episodes in a row, man.
You're like, hey, Mom, can I go play some backyard football? She's like, sure. You're like, finding all the
Immediately
Pooh.
on. It's like that picture of there's some like wow head freaking kid, the skinniest, day walkingest, palest kid you've ever seen, and it's like the caption is like, "Mom said I had to go play outside," and he took his whole desk and just like put it outside on the driveway.
Hey, big
It's
respect.
like sitting on like a upside down Home Depot bucket, like, yep, playing outside. I'm in a raid. Yep.
Sick.
Mom said play outside. Oh my gosh. Well, folks, that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for enjoying our extra special episode 14. And thank you, Tyler, for being here and joining us today.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it, guys. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of great banter, and I've got some more games to go try out. So thanks.
Yeah, I feel like when you were talking about what you've been playing lately, it was like a recap of all of our episodes so far. I feel so
Yeah.
privileged to
We got us
to
a
be putting-
fan.
That's right. Putting good ideas out there. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, everybody, make sure to follow us on Instagram if you haven't already. Like, share, follow, subscribe, etc. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Leaving reviews helps the algorithm. Rating the podcast. We actually have quite a few ratings now. Are you guys familiar? I don't know if you've noticed, but our podcast has like straight 5 ratings, and that is pretty cool. 15 people have rated the podcast. But anyway, really appreciate all of the interaction. This Q&A thing, both this one and the last one we did, the mailbag is always a fun time. So please keep it rolling. And until next time, people, don't forget, get out there and go touch some grass.
Bow, down, bow, down.